Hello. Pops here at Legal Reform. I was talking to a young lady today, and she has a 10-year-old child. She went to the dentist, took her son to the dentist. He had some inflammation somewhere in his gums. I think they had to do root canal or something, but he just made some general references and did some procedure and asked if he could give a medication to her son. And she wasn't too sure, but she allowed it anyways, and her son wound up in a bad way from the medications giving during the procedure. And basically nothing was said or done about it. Her son is doing fine now, but I asked her if she gave informed consent. She says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Did you know the side effects of this medication? Did anybody tell you what could possibly happen from this medication?" She said, "No." I said, "So you didn't have reasonable knowledge about that medication. And if you had, would you have allowed it? Because you need reasonable information to give an informed decision in order to give informed consent." She said, "Well, no." I said, "That's an easy win. You have to sign a waiver or paper basically saying you're giving informed consent. But even if she signed it, I told her, did you have reasonable information to make an informed decision?" She says, "Well, what does that mean if I signed the paper?" But still, informed consent requires reasonable knowledge, meaning you knew the adverse side effects of that medication and insisted on the doctor proceed anyways instead of asking if there was anything else he could give him. Says, "No." I says, "Okay, so well, you needed that reasonable information which you weren't given, so there was no possible way you could have made an informed decision to give that informed consent." Pretty simple. And then I had her look up medical malpractice attorneys. She says, "So I have to go see them?" I said, "No, you call them and they'll call you back." She says, "Yeah, but how much money?" I said, "They do this on a contingency basis. If you win, they get paid. If you lose, you don't pay them anything." But this is a constant, in the medical field, you not having informed consent. And that's where a lot of legal or medical malpractice suits begin. And for the most part, it's easy to win without you having reasonable knowledge to make an informed decision to give that informed consent. Okay, the same is true for most professions. Lawyers, before a lawyer can proceed in any case, before anything proceed in court, you must have reasonable knowledge. Okay, you must have reasonable knowledge to make an informed decision to give informed consent. Okay, so, sorry. Informed consent is a medical practice, refers to the process by which a patient voluntarily agrees to undergo a medical procedure or treatment after receiving all the necessary information and understanding the potential risks, benefits, and alternatives. Okay, I didn't write this. It's just the law. It's on the internet. Look it up. Informed consent medical. And key elements of informed consent: disclosure of information. The patient must receive clear and understandable information about the procedure or treatment, including its purpose, potential risks and benefit, alternative options, and the likelihood of success or failure. Comprehension: the patient must demonstrate that they understand the information provided and the opportunity to ask questions and receive answers. Voluntariness: the patient's decision to consent must be free from coercion, undue influence, or duress. Capacity: the patient must have the mental capacity to understand and make informed decisions about their health. Types of informed consent: written consent, a signed document that outlines the terms of the procedure or treatment. Verbal consent, an oral agreement between the patient and the healthcare provider. Implied consent, inferred from the patient's actions such as cooperating with a medical examination or treatment. Importance of informed consent. Okay, there's a lot to be said about informed consent. Process in which a patient is given important information, including risks, benefits about a medical procedure or treatment, genetic testing, or a clinical trial. This has helped them decide if they want to be treated, tested, or take part in the trial. Informed consent consists of a communication between a patient and their healthcare provider to ensure that the patient understands their condition and treatment options. It involves providing patients with important. So I just want you to understand the importance of informed consent. And it's rarely given. It's rarely asked for. A lot of doctors, I guess that's why I'm not getting treatments for some of the ailments I have, because I have a tendency of going over the legalities of what they're doing. And informed consent is rarely given. If you don't have reasonable knowledge to make an informed decision, as the internet explains, it's impossible for you to give informed consent. So even though you signed that piece of paper, nobody gave you the reasonable information to make an informed decision to give informed consent. Okay, same goes for the legal field too. If you're going through a case, and I was explaining to her, I even gave her the website because she was looking up medical malpractice attorneys. So I told her that she should also look up the rules of professional conduct, and she did. She says, why I got to know this? I says, because if you don't, they ain't going to do that. None of that. She said, well, what's this? I says, those are all a bunch of laws. She goes, laws? I said, yeah, those are laws in the court of law. Laws. And she says, well, what happens if they don't do this? I said, well, they took an oath to do that. Violating the oath is mandatory. Fines, removal from public service, if it's a lawyer, disbarred, judge, removed from the bench, etc., etc. And incarceration. She says, how do you know all this? I said, I like to read. It's on the internet. Look it up. And she asked a few more questions, so I told her we couldn't spend that much time. So to contact me through Messenger on Legal Reform, on my page of Legal Reform, and I'll just feed her a bunch of links. And her English isn't that good. Her comprehension is good, but her verbal skills, they're good, but there's room for improvement. But her son is born and raised here. Goes, his English is, she says he's quite the student, and his Ukrainian is quite good. So I told her, she told me he's only in 5th grade, so I told her he'll understand. So have him read it to her, and she'll understand. She goes, yeah, but I said, listen, I'll send you the links to understand. I'm going to send her a link. When she looked it up, she came up with the ABA rules. I told her she wants the Illinois rules, and she'll find that in the ARDC website. But I'll explain all that to her, and I'll explain the informed consent, and then the rules of professional conduct. Violating any of that is violating her sixth right to her right to effective assistance of counsel, which is guaranteed in the U.S. Constitution, 6th Amendment. But the conversation was getting a little long. But the whole point was she didn't think she had a case until I informed her about informed consent. I gave her the reasonable knowledge to make an informed decision. And it turns out she didn't give informed consent. So it's a pretty easy win for her. If the lawyer she chooses to hire goes by the law. Okay, I'm doing my best to make things as easy as possible for people. She doesn't even need to, it's just shortcut and dry. I told her, as long as your lawyer asserts this claim, minus informed consent, it's an easy win. They could file for a declaratory judgment. The opposing party, I seriously doubt they'll disagree, and come up with a quick settlement. It'll save both sides time and money. Okay, but it's informed consent. Remember, you need that in the medical field, the legal field. I was talking to somebody about the internet highway, how our information's being stolen and sold, and that's why you see all these ads no matter what social network you go on, and they're popping up because simply the only reason it's happening is because you're minus informed consent. You need reasonable knowledge to make an informed decision to give informed consent, and the supernet highway is operating in a public trust. So you'll have to read the public trust doctrine to understand that. So the internet highway, that super highway, of information, that belongs to we the people, and so anybody, stealing your information for nefarious reasons, whatever they may be. And I say nefarious because if you didn't give informed consent to allow this to happen, I mean, seriously, every lawyer out there should be protesting this, because and not just lawyers, but politicians, they are legally required to do what's in the public interest and maintain the public trust. And the internet, your rivers, the oceans surrounding us, the land you walk on, the air you breathe, the minerals beneath the earth, those floating, that's in the public trust. Everything medical, education, the United States Post Office is part of the public trust. So you have to think of yourself as a trust fund baby when you think public trust. And legally, everybody in the legal system, no matter what side of the table they sit on in court, no matter if they're sitting on the bench, politicians just as well are legally required to do what's in the public interest and maintain the public trust. It's in the preamble, the rules of professional conduct. If you look up the public interest, you'll amaze yourself. And when you look up the public trust doctrine, you'll amaze yourself even more. Okay, I just wanted to give you a heads up. If it wasn't for, the legal system and your public servants raiding the public trust, pillaging it, pilfering it, things wouldn't be the way they are now. You would quite literally have universal healthcare, Medicare for all, whatever you want to call it. So remember, people, no matter what goes on out there, you need informed consent. You need to give informed consent. And how often have you ever received reasonable information to make an informed decision to give that informed consent? Okay, I'm just throwing some laws out there. Like I said, most of the time when I speak, I have a vast tendency to use legal terms. And it's easy for a lawyer or judge to understand what I'm saying, because I use a lot of laws and I just use common terms. And I'm just trying to get you to understand what I say when I'm saying it. Okay, so I'm going to end this video, and hopefully this young lady watches this, has her son watch it. And like I said, he's 10 years old. He's a 5th grader. I'm quite sure he's going to understand this. Quite sure. All right, have a good day. I got more to get to. There's still probably a couple more videos I'll put up today. But remember that informed consent, the requirements of informed consent. Okay, I just read it to you. Look it up yourself. There's a lot more. Okay, there's a lot more you should know about that. Nothing but love for you when it comes to my people, we the people. You are the many pieces of my heart.